perfect awakenings, perfect surprise party, perfect celebration physics, the greatest possible discovery. Welcome to Hatch's extravaganza. The party commences, and we are engaged on the greatest potential of our identity. We represent our full kingdom. We are at our greatest attention. For us to receive the greatest award, we are angels of this garden earth. The apocalypse of 2020 demands a hero. This episode is designed to perform the perfect light, the perfect response, the perfect spring trap, perfect design, fulcrum to navigate Earth into the greatermost future. Basically, rounding up and pushing away all sickness causing vibrations, lights, energies, or sequences. You know what the world needs is friendship. What the world needs is love. When we have love, there are solutions. And those who are in charge do not falter to the temptations of war and other such uh, anti societal energies. Performing as the hero has its own constraints, but we must impress only ourselves. We hold ourselves to the greatest possible standard. For America demands the greatest script, the greatest content, the greatest discovery. We put forward genius. We produce the light of what's truly funny. The discovery process and the big laughs, that occurs between Hatch and Randy. Oh, and in my previous performance, Trey, I was talking about, I had a joke for Randy and Hatch, and I didn't quite get to enunciate it. I sort of felt like I had been talking for a long time. It was like an hour long, and I was just like, okay, well, I'll talk to you guys later. And we all have stuff to do. But meanwhile, let's optimize the day, and we want to complete what are we doing for 2021? And what does it look like to open up a business in 2021? So essentially, Hatch's story is about, what is American uh, environmental epiphany, business startup. It's a story, but then through that, it's literally a streaming service and sort of completes its own prophecy by documenting the progress of the company and the actual process of, underneath the constraints of 2021. Opening up a business can be tough. And so it's relevant in this way. And then the sort of significant relationship and a discovery process happens there, right? So I want to talk to you guys about my South Park episode. And the resulting production is simply a series of films produced by Trey Parker, where I'm working on my streaming service. And essentially, Trey would supply the actual networking of business model startup, or like a legal defense team. Um, so, like producing a movie with Hatch, I mean, it's a very similar process to the episode. But I think that's really what we're here to talk about, right? But it is possible also that if Trey becomes determined that this South Park episode with Hatch is a perversion and that the value of maintaining his accent and the identity form is a superior expression than to collaborate with Hatch and make a South Park episode together. Trey Parker has the free will to do that. You know, he needs to make that decision. So, you know, Trey could also say, you know, but I'm not against Hatch. I actually, you know, I want him to have his company. Sounds like his streaming service will be giving a lot of new voices a chance, a lot of new pilots, and voices that would not otherwise be produced are going to find their foothold and their progress through Hatch's streaming service. So, in that sense, that could just happen. We could just produce, uh, you know, we'll say, okay, Hatch is going to make 5 independent, low-budget movies, but the kind of the gag here is we're also going to give him the infrastructure where he's literally literally starting up his own company and going through the whole thing process with real estate and uh, you know networking and discovering uh, you know outsourcing and doing this sort of thing. But I want it to be you know with Hatch it's always a production or the visuals are important. So well I've just been you know daydreaming a lot recently about how I'd like to open my company and you know but to me the story with me and Trey in South Park it's like the same thing. It's like who I am. I want people to actually see who I am. I want to have my first kiss with everyone where they see Millie and they see the Halloween twins and they understand, oh, that's who Hatch is. You know, that's what I like about the story is because I get to have that sort of advanced relationship with everyone. As compared to like oh, he's this guy and he's wearing a wolf mask and it lights up, you know, and it, but, but there he goes. He's starting up his company, you know, and it's still like what I want to have like a magical relationship with humanity my whole life. And so this idea about making a South Park episode is completely magical, but it's also very real and powerful. The super physics of the Green Wolf robot and the perfect design behind that. I mean, it's the essentially the will of Earth. Like Earth is saying, like, oh, I need you guys to pull out this thorn. Like you can see how I've got like, oh, climate crisis, um, you know, acid rain, and oh, you know, Earth is our relationship. And so I, you know, it's not that we need to condemn ourselves for polluting. We just need to get a boner for cleaning it up and get busy motivating the next generation. And you know, perfecting our lifetime in that taking responsibility for the that we're using so much disposable plastic items and that the language of you know getting away from burning oil it's downright embarrassing. Like people should be super excited about solar energy. And this solar panel new type just recently was discovered and its numbers make what we had as or what we think we have right now as solar panels or these new solar panels make those things look like garbage literally. This stuff is so powerful Okay, if you start putting that on cars and on the roofs of houses, it's very exciting. You guys, the future is very exciting. And I think that I'm alarmed that the general humanity isn't able to maintain a conversation about this material. This is super important. And I'm seeing the atrophy of society. And but when we have this lucid, nimble conversation, we're going through an an obstacle course and the most advanced relational physics ever to comprehend the meaning of our day and transcending the atrophy and being the genius cutting edge of America and of our people. That's leadership. It's us working hard and talking here and now in this circle of friends, and we're casting the perfect health spell. We're protecting each other's health so that we can, all I need is health, and I'll be working as hard as I can on my side. You hear me? You feel that? It's like that's what we have in common is we want to be, you know, conscious and functioning. I talk a lot about preventative medicine, but what's it all about except that for just being able to survive another day or, anyway, it's about sort of the enlightenment of being grateful that we're alive. Oh, okay, we can do this, and it's really, really interesting. So I want to talk about robots. I'm really excited about robots, and essentially my work here is like, okay, I want to animate my entire working area, and there's a robot area here, and my character's like this, and then the writers and the and Trey and Matt, and they look at it and they're like, okay, well, maybe the characters could interact with it that way. Oh, that works so well because that would link in with why, what what was the communication gap education between VR and robots? Like, how did that get explained? And there has to be like some sort of story arc. But I am talking about super cities. I'm talking about smart homes, computers, robots networked into the house. And that's a good way for us to look into the future and be even hopeful and get into a dreamy place where we're all kind of like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. Like, look at this robot with its eyes lighting up. Like, that's just cool. Then what we give them is the biggest birthday cake ever. And it's this green, it's honey, get your gun. We're gonna go kill the thorn in the side of the earth, and it's gonna be permanent and it's gonna be real because that's what the story pertains. And that and out of the millions and millions of people watching it, and in the millions of times that it gets watched, it's a meditation that absolutely performs this procedural of removing the worst problem that the earth has or that the viewer has. It's just this health procedural carbon. So I'm proposing like an engine block. I'm like, this is a hot rod. Okay, the whole entire front end is open, and Trey Parker, the back end is wide open. So if we're not going to do a Christmas special, wow, this could really be an opus, an absolute legend of South Park, where in the animation we see some lotuses opening up. Uh, Surprisingly, Stan has this epiphany, and it's like Stan, we're seeing the lotus mind crystals in Stan's animation like awakening and emanating outwards, and this resonates with the virtual reality. But it's like Stan knows that it's like, oh, it's happening for both of us. Or, I don't know, it's like this critical thing about robot trainers and about why in the future of the economy of America, gentlemen will have jobs just interacting with robots and AI for the identity potence, for the encryption of identity to our AI and robots. For robot trainers, you would get paid for playing video games and driving vehicles that are, completely electric. But then performing like a microchip societal digestion of the country between super cities as a higher minded calculation. Now, what I'm talking about is a new governmental infrastructure of enlightened properties that is beyond what we have today as an operating government system. That's why I'm a visionary for these futuristic things, and we need to see it and we understand it. And because, or they're like, oh, that's how we have universal health care. That is how we will have job security and be interested in sharing and, you know, a lot of progressive things click into place. Like, oh, that makes sense. Like, you know, I'm about the free world. I'm about the free country. But if we change, I'm not talking about government control. I'm not talking about communism. But we do need to have universal health care, and the government can do that. So you're kind of we. It's it's a conversation that needs to happen. Okay, because I think the new world with the kids are protesting the old people. They would say, I understand what Hatch is saying. We need to have sort of a basic monetary income, these types of ideas that seem to be socialist, but actually it's part of the economy. It's actually what keeps things rolling over. We don't want to have this sort of indenturement where you have to work for money. That's sort of this sort of old style of money where it's supply and demand. I'm just saying there's like an older mind to it where they misplace the sense of honor, and they'd be like, "Oh, you're talking about communism." And I'd be like, "No, dude, no, 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 no. No, I'm talking about something that does make sense, but it's just a little bit more complicated." By the way, you guys are saying you're claiming that that you guys have the democratic free vote, but because you have the electoral college, that there's multiple steps of logic there that are separating the definition of that the people have the vote. So America doesn't really have the people are voting and putting in a president. Okay, that's just not happening. So you talk to me about the honor of our society and oh, don't be a communist. I'm like, whoa, you guys are like burning the environment and you're freaking, you're slow. And the kids are protesting you in the face, right in your face, and right in your stupid face. These kids are just going like, "You are an idiot," and you guys are like clapping. Look at their little signs. I am so impressed, but I won't change my behavior. It's repulsive. So I'm fighting for that. I'm fighting for the revolution. I'm fighting for this thing. All right. So like honestly, if this isn't going to be a Christmas special, it completely opens up into a lotus of its own amorphous. As soon as we start working on this, Matt and Trey and Hatch will have these ideas getting into, okay, we have like an hour long segment, so we want to have a few grandiose parts where this is like an epic, okay, because when we go into the VR space, we can open up a whole new world. And it can be understood as like we're traveling inside the brain of the AI. We're traveling to discover the spark of the robot. We're talking about, initiating society and, bringing in the future. So I do use this language where I'm talking about super cities and democracy, um, but we have to understand that this is a relevant leverage when we're talking about 2020, when we're talking about what's going on, what's newsworthy, and so I'm just really pleased to present to you guys this script. But without the constraints of Christmas, it completely opens up in this really weird organic way where we can even make certain parts of it scary because we're not like, oh, if it's Christmas, but there's certain parts where like, oh my gosh, Stan just heard, the wolf growl and like, oh no, and then we see some flashing fangs or whatever. Um, there's I'm just saying that I think what's really funny about the script would happen in the navigation between us. Okay, when we're talking about what did the characters actually say, that's when it's gonna get funny. But I'm proposing this engine block. It's a hot rod, so I'm saying like, okay, this engine block it only does this one thing. It makes these tiny biciclette, tiny steps, uh, very carefully, health, making things better, and using general specifics that can actually happen. So, we're creating like a talisman that meditates on health and wellness for the identity, for the residency, for the earth, for the universe. So this is a very a profound engine block, but it needs to be delighted by the laughter of children. And so that's where Trey comes in to make some funny songs. And so there's just little moments here, right? So it's a wonderful epic. And this is a way that we can engage with Hatch in a professional way where we're respectful and we're saying, we want to develop this Green Wolf robot toy. It makes its own music. It's just like, it's like a musical instrument of modern day. It uses a touchpad, and there's different filters where you can see your character running through, navigating through a tunnel of angel opportunities that change the music subtly. And you kind of race through it, and then it makes up like this a brand new one of a kind song, and but it's in per reflection of your use of that. But we'll have this sort of open thing where the interface is something that's being updated or contributed or talked about or like, oh, how could we you know optimize the input valve here, like how do we want the note keys to be on the touchpad. So it's just like, really, that's robot trainers, you guys. That's us, like, doing genuine, like I was telling Trey, some of the greatest super physics is this orientation of the things in front of you and the workstation and that intense encounter. That's like a eternal epiphany of the how is a crow like a writing desk. So I exist as the idol of my company, and I'm working to become a great leader for America. We'll see how far that goes. It really is, we really are a country for the people by the people, and it's for them to make me popular. If that goes in that direction, then I'll really know that the earth is speaking and behind it and on it, and like, yes, that's what, you know and I'm just excited for the journey. And I think the best way, is to do this episode so that I can learn a lot. It's a crash course for me. And then when we have this agreement, like, okay, we want to develop this toy, and I'd be like, that's great. I want to tell you guys. I mean, I like, this story was developed between Trey and I. And so this whole thing happened because I was thinking about you guys and loving on you guys. And it's like when I do my streaming service, um, it's not like I can just retrofit the details here. So what I've been talking about doing with you guys is specific, and it's just this one script, and it has a few excellent features. But the point is, it's this type of professional lubricant so that you guys could help me have a significant startup of my own. And it is this intensity of the night sky and that we live on Earth. We, you know, we are real, and we want to produce really smart things and raise this family and make America um, survive this depression. So, my story, be after the work. So, if we want to turn the page and say, like, please, you guys, I really would like to work with you on this episode. I mean, I would just blush, and I would just be like, if you guys hired me, like, I would feel like I was being carried by angels into heaven. I'd be like, oh my God, it's happening, and I'm like, are you guys sure? And they're like, yeah, yeah, we're sure, Hatch. We decided we want to do this with you. Like, that would feel so good to have that sort of friendship, and like you guys are holding some side of things. That would be like, oh, it's huge relief. And in that maelstrom, that emotional thing, we're gonna have some amazing conversations and some I can be doing art for the scenery and some character details and be navigating that. Um, but just some wonderful things will happen where our sort of friendship produces laughter. But it's just like a particular joke. We just couldn't really discover any other way. We go. It's a journey. So I'm saying I think that energy is between us. So with that confidence, I say that this is definitely the right path for me, and I hope that you guys find it's the right thing for you too. Yeah. So ever since I told you guys about the football, it's like midway through this episode, your uh, decision about or your opinions about me changed a little bit. So I really like this episode. It's probably one of my favorite South Park episodes. But at any rate, I wanted to talk to you guys about sort of the things that can't be seen with the naked eye. I wanted to talk to you about things that can't be accessed in any other way. I'm talking to you guys about opening up a sequence of dimensions that allows the Green Wolf robot to perform his maximum achievement. And as we're running through this, our living generation, we are parallel, we are running forward together through every day. But between us, we can potentially share an epiphany that cannot be accessed any other way. It's those magical proteins, those particular particles, those become the important ingredients for the advanced wizard. For entities such as Eric Hartman, and he can sense in his bones the difference of Hatch and his influence, but also his work with Batman and his work with New York City, his work in general. But it's like a voice of animation. It's a different dimension, and Hatch is aware of it, but he's having his his uh, commencement with his startup company. He needs a producer, but this guy, he's a workhorse. He can make money, but he can't afford the startup. It's just like that's the American story, you guys, and that's what we're talking about. So here's the kicker, Trey, because you guys admittedly have been a little bit tough on Hatch, you know. So for I'm gonna give you the penalty, right? So I'm going to insist upon a signing bonus. Now, for the sake of our professional endeavor, I want you guys to purchase me a specific. Now, this car, uh, I want you to get me a 1980 Pontiac Firebird Turbo T-tops with red interior and red leather seats. So I'm taking up from when Matt was saying how like when he signed with some studio, he insisted that they give him 500 pairs of extra socks. So if he goes into the kitchen and steps on a little puddle of water, oops, he can just slip them off and put on like a brand new pair of socks. It's like, that's the signing bonus. So I'm asking you guys for this signing bonus because part of my streaming service startup is that I had this vision about driving in this car and basically telling stories at night, but actually working because I want to segue into virtual reality in cars. So I actually want to set up, um, it's like I'm doing a stream, but I actually have a couple people who are doing editing because we'll have like a GoPro camera where you can see the exterior of the car for a moment, and so there's like actually a like this little um, a crew of editors who are facilitating, but I'm actually driving and talking with like my office, being like, so what's going on with so and so? Can we set up an appointment for that person? And actually um, uh, and that's sort of my plan. And so that would actually be one of my first shows, is like Hatch is just driving and talking to some of his friends, but then he's like telling a story or he's making some notes. And then there's like, um, but it looks like, oh, okay. So I know how I want to do it. At any rate, this car was sold this year for 4K. So these cars are available for a really amazing price. It's possible if you look for it, you can find one that's asking for 20K, but I'd rather, start with one that's like it's runs and it's good. Like, look, the body is perfect, right? Uh, but it needs like some work, right? So you'd be better off getting like a something that's considered like a project car, even though this is that's like for me, this is already like, oh no, so cool. Um, but yeah, just get like a project car and then put, 4K into it to get it to a place where um, it's really quite an advanced creature. But specifically the 1980 Pontiac Firebird. And the I want to go with the red one because I don't want to be confused with that TV show that had a black Firebird on it. Even though, um, even though the black model with the gold um, Firebird on the hood, I think that's the quintessential version of this Pontiac. But I, I'm not trying to make a reference to that TV show, so I think I want to actually go with red on red, and it'll be like the chariot of a vampire. Um, it'll be sort of my office space because I was talking about like how do you open a business in 2021, right? So it's like if we don't have like a huge office space, what I could perform from inside a car and then people watching, or they're getting education, they're learning about this thing, but they're also having the relief of while we're driving. It feels really good, and also then Hatch sometimes is telling a story, and um, we'll have like little information and opportunities, like if people want to are interested in earning some money with animation because we're going to start doing some animations where people can do a frame and whether we're doing it for free or you get paid $10 or if you get rich and like $100. But then if you're like an animator with our group, we'll be like, okay, we're doing like this big budget animated thing, and literally you'll get like $400 per cell. Like I think we could once the streaming service gets into a certain position, that's definitely possible. And one of the things I've been thinking about is I love the advanced painterly qualities of um, digital art today. Um, like sometimes you'll see just one painted image, and you're like, That's so beautiful. Why don't they make the whole cartoon look like that?" You know? So that's essentially what I'd be going for, and having this sort of depth where we're working with a bunch of really talented people and making magical scenes happen with the visuals, but just like incredible depth of quality to the handmade animated features, right? But that's like down the line when I have a huge budget for that. I'm saying like it'd be charismatic. People would be able to uh, embrace this CEO. Oh, it's Hatch, and he's doing his streaming service, and he's talking about what kind of channels he wants, and you know, I want to get some people thinking about that, making a plan, a structure. Um, how much graphics would we need for that? and sort of start building the quintessential crew of finding those friends. It's really like a network of your best friends. So I need to like make these best friends, and I'll know them when I see them. People just who know what they want and are willing to work really hard, and who understand the value of the work. Because I'm not, I don't want people who just appear to be busy. Like, oh, we're working hard. You can tell by the visuals. I want people who are actually who know the difference between brainstorming or like, we need to care about this part. They need to know and have that type of maturity. Um, but yeah, red leather interior. So this is like, if you guys get me this car, then all things forgiven. Like I'll forgive you for being a jerk to me, right? So this is my big like signing bonus thing. I was born in the year 1980, and the reality. I mean, I don't think it's that. I mean, so the opportunity for South Park Studios, if you guys decide that you don't want to go on a magical adventure with Hatch, then you could just produce my movie about so, about opening a company, and essentially the budget is like, oh, we need actual real people who are setting up his infrastructure for his LLC and setting up this, and they're going through that. But then it becomes a streaming service, and it sort of takes flight. And it's a story about opening up a startup company in the heat of 2021. So that's my pitch to you guys, and I like really appreciate your time and energy. Um, like I just believe that this is a matter of the heart. It's if Trey wants to do this episode with Hatch, I'm saying it'd be the better thing for me. It'd be better thing for America. It'd be the better launch for my streaming service company startup thing. Okay. And so I'm saying like that's, but I'm just putting it on the table because you guys are my friend. I'm so grateful that we've gone through this wizarding adventure together and we've built magical totems. We were blessing 2021 and we were insisting on health for our own creature. And then we were discovering in the dimensions that are hard to reach otherwise. And, that's why we work with language is to discover these moments that matter. That is truly what we've achieved today. Thank you, South Park Studios. And so it is a matter of caring and of the heart. If we decide and we understand, wow, without the constraints of Christmas, this special episode is an opus, and it just opens up organically with all these thematic options. It's very, it's a wonderful story. This is a very good script. And I believe it's very South Park because it's made for South Park. Thank you guys so much, and I appreciate your consideration. Sure.